And
Thank you,
also,
Rabbi.
today's class is dedicated by Yehuda for Shlema, for the name we mentioned before, and for Liana Bas Bella. And thank you, Yehuda, for dedicating today's class and many other classes, making it possible for us to do this great thing. Okay. Today's Chumash, where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So today's Chumash, we're holding Monday of Parshas Bo. And we got through so far 7 of the 10 plagues. And we're going to finish. We're going to get to the end of the 7th of the 10th plague. That's what we're holding. And we are discussing the locust. The locust was the 7th plague, where Hashem actually brings the locust on the whole country of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. So Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. So God says to Moshe, Nitei yadcha al eretz Mitzrayim. Stretch out your hand, Moses, over the land of Egypt. Bi'arba, in order that the locusts come. Vayal al eretz Mitzrayim, and then all the locusts are going to come, Moses, once you do that in the land of Egypt. Vayochal, and they're going to eat as kol esav ha'sa'aretz, all the grass, all the vegetation, they're going to eat everything up. As kol asher hishir habarad, whatever was left, because the barad hadn't completely, the hail, which was the earlier plague, had not completely destroyed everything yet. So God tells Moses, when I bring the locusts are going to come and going to completely get rid of the rest of the vegetation that's left. So Vayet Moshe es Mateu, Moshe stretched out his staff, al eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt. Hashem niyag ruach kodim ba'aretz, and the Torah tells us exactly how the plague of locusts came. Hashem led an eastern wind, basically coming from Israel, in the direction of Israel towards Egypt. Israel's kind of northeast from Egypt. So a big wind, a huge wind, an eastern wind comes in that direction from the east. A whole day there was this major wind. And the whole night is this major wind. And it comes in the morning. And this eastern major wind that's been blowing all day and all night has with it a tremendous amount of locusts. So it brings on from Israel down south, west to Egypt, and it brings with it, this wind brings with it a tremendous amount of locusts together with it. And the locusts go over the entire Egypt. They landed, they rested, they came down in the entire border of Egypt, within the entire country of Egypt. Kavin Mioid, it was so heavy, such a locust, right? Even today, I think we saw in the news not long ago, there was one in the Middle East. There was a locust. I think it was actually in Iran not long ago. I remember seeing in the news. But it's a thing that happens. But this one that was in Egypt was so strong, there was never such an experience of locusts of this magnitude beforehand. And forever again after, never will there be ever another level of locust, that magnitude as there was in the 7th plague of locusts in the land of Egypt. Rashi asks something interesting. Rashi says, we know that there's a book in the Tanakh called Job, and there's a debate exactly when Job lived. Job is one of the very short books of the prophets. And in his time, it says that there was a locust plague, which never ever was there such a plague like in the times of Job. So who had the worst plague? Was Egypt the worst, that there never will be something like this and there never was? Or is it correct in the later on in the Torah, in the Tanakh, in the written Torah, it says that by Yoel, that by him, there never ever was such a plague, but Egypt already happened. I thought Egypt was the worst plague. So to answer this question, Rashi says, interesting, that there's 2 different kinds of why each one had its own significance, why it was the worst. So he says in Egypt, in the times of Joel, it was the worst because they had the most different kinds, variety of locusts that were there. There was like tremendous variety of locusts, and there was never such an experience. In the Egyptian one, it didn't have the variety. It only had one kind of locust, or it might have had some other ones, but the major biggest amount of locusts was one kind of locust that really devoured Egypt. So Egypt was the craziest kind of experience of one locust, But in Yoel, it's going to have a uniqueness, a little bit different kinds. But either way, obviously, it was a tremendous plague and literally covered the entire land. Verse 15. It covers the eye, the view of the whole land. It became dark from so many locusts. They ate all the grass. Priya ate and all the fruit of the trees. Whatever was left from the plague of hail. There was now no fruits were left. And the grass of the field, the entire land of Egypt, everything, all the vegetation was completely consumed by the locusts that were in the land of Egypt. So Pharaoh's freaking out. Verse 16. So Vayamar Paro, the Kril Moshe, Paro runs and calls Moshe the Aaron to Aaron Vayomer, and he says, I made a mistake. Chatasi LaHashem Elekechem. He says, I sinned to God, your God. Velachem, and to you. Ta'ata, now, Sana Chatasi, please carry my sin, forgive me. Achapam, just this time, please, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry, forgive me. Vasiru LaHashem, just pray to God, Elekechem, your God. And he'll remove from me rakas hamavis. This is just this death penalty, this punishment you're causing. This locust that's being brought on Egypt, it's unbearable. We can't handle it. It's horrible. Just take it away. So they left Paro, and they prayed to Hashem. And Hashem turns a strong wind from the west. And now it's going to carry away the heavy wind that will come, will carry away all the locusts. Yamasuf, and will drown them, will bury them, will thrust them into the Yamsuf, into the Red Sea. Not one. There'll be a strong wind, will carry everything in the other direction. Not even one locust will remain. The whole land of Egypt. The whole land will be get rid of. A strong wind will come and will literally get rid of all the locusts that's within the entire land of Egypt. Rashi gets into an interesting discussion. I was trying to look it up. Where exactly was the locust thrown into? Where was the Red Sea? Rashi saying it kind of went along the whole eastern side of Egypt. Then the Red Sea turns a little bit west, and it goes along the eastern side. And he describes exactly where the wind took the locust. And basically the bottom line is it took all the locusts and it threw them into the sea, and not one was remained. And Rashi says something interesting about not one locust being remained, because dead locust might actually be a delicacy. Some people salt it and they eat them, and they were going to maybe benefit. At least they'll be able to benefit from the dead locust. And no, Hashem made sure even the ones that they salted were removed. Not one was left. They couldn't benefit. No matter if they tried to get a benefit out of the plague, that would not take place. That wouldn't happen. But Hashem hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he didn't keep his word. He still didn't send the Jewish people even after the seventh plague. So God says to Moshe, he says again, stretch out your hand toward the heavens. And there'll be a darkness, the ninth plague, on the land of Egypt. By Yomesh Choshech. Not just will it be a regular darkness, but the darkness will become even stronger. So Rashi says, not just will it be dark like we're at night, will be dark that the first 3 days was a darkness that was darker than dark. You couldn't see anybody. The second 3 days, he says, it was so crazy dark that you couldn't even move. So there was actually a consistency to this darkness. It wasn't just a sight impairment that you couldn't see because it was so dark, but it took on a tangible, some interesting kind of darkness. It was a thickness that was created that if you were sitting when the darkness started, the second set of 3 days, you would have to stay sitting, and if you were standing, you would have to stay standing, and it was not just a regular kind of darkness, Rashi says, but much stronger than that. Now, Rashi is going to explain, I guess soon, what was the reason for making the ninth plague the plague of darkness. Let's see verse 22 first. So Moses sticks his hand onto the heavens. And it turns dark in the whole land of Egypt for 3 days. it comes dark for 3 days. So Rashi, as I said, there was the first 3 days, and then there was the second 3 days, and the second 3 days was much more thick than the first 3 days. Now, Rashi says, what was the point of this? He says, you know what? Maybe darkness is enough. People will be depressed. It's dark. He says that there was two other goals for the reason behind this darkness here. Even though Rashi doesn't always explain all the plagues, the reason for them. We did that in the first lesson we had when we spoke about the plagues. But Rashi does give information about this one, and he says two very interesting things, right? Those that are with us, listen to the two very interesting reasons that he gives. Number one, he says that there were actually Jews who lived among the Jewish people who did not want to leave Egypt. They were evil people, wicked people. Imagine, God forbid, it's not going to be like that when Mashiach comes, at least hopefully. Imagine there are Jews who say, Mashiach comes, I don't want to go. So there were Jews who lived in Egypt who did not want to leave. And Hashem wasn't going to take them with him. Hashem was going to leave them there and actually going to make them all pass away. Now, as has been happening in the other plagues, Hashem always didn't punish the Jews, and it was clear that the Jews were being saved. But Hashem had a problem here. If you were to wipe out and kill however many hundreds or thousands of people they don't want to leave, the Egyptians will say that this is not from a plague from Hashem to them because the Jews were also dying. So it was a natural cause. So Hashem had to create the burial, the funerals for all these people to take place where the Egyptians couldn't see. And that's why the 9th plague, right before the Jews will leave, Hashem will bring a plague of darkness so thick that no one could even move and no one could see what's going on. In order for the Jews to bury their brothers and sisters who didn't want to go, Hashem will kill them. And by the time the Egyptians come around, they won't know what happened because all the Jewish people that needed to pass away will be buried. That's one interesting reason. Rashi then gives us a second reason. Rashi says that Hashem is going to tell us in the next few verses, that Moshe should please tell the Jewish people to go in to collect all the gold and silver from the Egyptian homes. Guys, I need to take a break. Give me 1 second here. Sorry. Hang on. Okay, let's continue. So let's continue with the Chumash inside. So basically, so Moshe stretches his hand out in this darkness, and God also wants the Jews during that dark period to enter the Egyptians' homes, looks where they're hiding their gold and silver, and basically when they come time to leave, to ask them for the gold and silver. So Loiro Ishas Achiv, a man didn't see his brother. Verse 23, they couldn't see each other for 3 days, and for all the Jewish people there was light during that 3-day period of time, or the 6-day period of time, 3 days and 3 days. And that is the end of the 8th plague, which we're holding today. Any questions or comments on today's class so far? Yes, Ira.
The question is, was there darkness everywhere and the Jewish people were able to see through the darkness, or you know what I'm saying, or was it that the Jews
it seems that right,
or was it that the Jews just didn't have darkness, only the non-Jews experienced darkness? You know what I'm saying? Like,
the Jews had light, the non-Jews had darkness. You want to know if a Jew went into it seems like the Jews had light, so the Jews were able to go into the non-Jew's house and find out what's going in the non-Jew's house. So exactly, it seems like the exact same, somehow they had like night vision, so the non-Jews weren't able to move even for the second group of 3 days. See, the first 3 days when they were able to move wasn't enough for the Jewish people to go into the non-Jews' houses, because even if it's dark in your house and you can't see, you'll still hear someone entering your house and going through your drawers. So Hashem had to make it like a thickness that bothered them, and the Jews were able to move around freely. So it seems
I guess the question is, were there 2 miracles? Was one miracle the darkness, and the other miracle was that Jews were able to see through the darkness, or was it only one miracle where only the non-Jews, I guess, you know what I'm saying?
It seems like it was a double miracle because, again, that was the whole point, to show constantly, as that's what Hashem is doing, is why is it only happening here and not there?
So they had like X-ray vision where they could see through walls or whatever and see where their stuff.
It doesn't seem like a vision. It was actually light for them. So whatever, it's not a regular darkness is what's interesting. It's some kind of thickness that they literally were not able to move. And it would only happen to the non-Jews and didn't happen to the Jews. So it was a miracle that Hashem allowed that to happen. Yeah. So that it seems like all the miracles were like that and was deliberately like that. Hashem did not want the Egyptians to see the Jews dying and then say that it's not really true what you're saying because Jews are dying too. So the plagues are happening to the Jewish people also. So the whole miracle was that the Jews were able to see everything going on and the Egyptians were not able to.
And they were also going to find out where the
I don't know if you want to consider that 2 miracles or 1 miracle, whatever you want to consider that, but that's the reality of how it was. Basically, God's in control of nature, and where he wants it to be light, there's light, and where he doesn't want it to be light, there's no light, right? I don't know if you want to consider that 2 miracles. Like in the hail, it says it was a double miracle, right? And then the question is, what was a double miracle that Rashi's saying here? Probably, I would say it's a double miracle. That the fact that it's unique, that you're making the whole world dark, and then you're allowing certain people to see, probably, yeah, I would consider that a double miracle. That's what I would say.
And they also were able to see where, like, the riches were when they
Correct.
left to take them, to tell them,
Yeah, they went into their drawers, and then when they came in time to leave, in tomorrow's Chumash, God's going to tell Moses, you're about to run out. Please go ask the people for the gold, because I made a commitment many years ago to Abraham that I will, right? I made a commitment to Avraham that I'll send your children out with a lot of gold, and if you don't take the gold, I'm going to be not keeping my word. So make sure to do that. Yeah. So it's
Doesn't it seem like every plague seems like there's not just one miracle, it's multiple miracles going on at each plague?
It's a great point you're making, because the Haggadah actually says that. It said that each miracle had 10 miracles within it. Correct. So if you read that, it's a discussion between the rabbis. You're bringing up a very interesting point. There is a discussion among the rabbis how many miracles really took place. And they argue that many more miracles than the 10 plagues actually took place. There were a tremendous amount of miracles within each miracle taking place. And they discuss how much there were. So some says there was 250. Some, because I could actually, if you remember the Haggadah, it says in the 10 plagues was the finger of God. And at the sea was the hand of God. So if you take 10 times 5, it ends up being 50. And then they get into like a whole conversation, well, exactly how many miracles were there? So they get into the fact that the Torah is only telling us a general miracle, but many more miracles took place than the Torah tells us straight outright about the 10 miracles. There's actually, you're right, many more little miracles are actually taking place. Wow. So that was a good question. That was a good point. Thank you, Ira and Gregory. Anybody else?
I just wanted to add a comment, Rabbi. I was reading a Mamar of the Rebbe last night, and it talked about that when we study Torah, the neshamas in heaven listen to our Torah study to rise up to higher levels of heaven. So I thought it was great that we're all studying Torah. I just wanted to share that fact of everything.
Yeah, very good. You're right. You're saying that it has a cosmic effect more than just the the effect that it's having on us. It has a much greater cosmic effect on the whole universe. Okay, let's move on to Tanya. I don't know why I'm really short breath. I'm going to go do a little exercise after.